Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Emma and I write romance. I'm based in the UK. For years, I was a firm believer that there was absolutely no point in marketing yourself and your writing before you had a book actually written and about to be published. At that point, I accepted the fact that one does need to get oneself onto some form of social media, network with other writers, try to get interview opportunities, etc., etc. Basically, you are going to need to let potential readers know that you exist. Let me explain my reasoning. When someone is writing their first book, I would say it's fairly likely that they are going to be doing so alongside holding down a job and probably alongside a whole bunch of other commitments like kids, caring duties, pets. You get the drift. Their priority for their author career, I felt, should be their writing, not making pretty images on Canva to post on Instagram. Also, when you are first starting out on your writing journey, you might not end up publishing the first thing you write. You might even change what genre you're writing completely. How much energy do you want to put into something that you might scrap or pivot from? I also believe that there wouldn't be much for you to say, to be honest, other than giving writing updates and sharing snippets of your writing life. Would anyone actually be interested in these? However, I was so wrong about this. It was years after I published my first book that I realised though, and I don't want that to happen to you. So let me tell you about my own experience as a first-time author many moons ago. I self-published my first novel, The Green Hills of Home, about 13 years ago, I think now. I'm quite an introvert, and so I actually waited until my book was written and available before I told anyone. And I kind of shyly stuck my head up above the parapet and whispered, "I've written a book, by the way, if anyone's interested, but don't worry if you're not, it's fine." In my defense, at that time, I didn't really see myself as a proper writer. I wrote The Green Hills of Home after reading an article in a newspaper which declared how easy it was to write a romance novel. Anyone who's actually attempted to write a romance novel knows, of course, that this is complete nonsense, but I decided that I would prove it. A year and a half and one completed manuscript later, I brought the book out into the world with shockingly little fanfare even for me. But bear in mind that I didn't know if I'd write another book. However, it still wasn't smart, and here are the reasons why. When people go into a bookshop and buy the latest book by Stephen King or James Patterson, for example, they're probably not buying it because that book is actually better than any other book on the shelves in front of them. They're not buying it because it has a beautiful cover that appeals to them, although this does help, of course, or because the blurb makes the story sound absolutely amazing. Again, this does definitely help. They are buying that book in particular because they are buying part of the author's brand. That brand means that the readers know the author to a certain extent, or at least believe that they know the author. They like them. They're aware of exactly what to expect from one of their books, and they are happy to take a chance on buying a new one and to put the money towards that author. The exact same thing applies with authors who are not as well known. People will buy your book if they're interested in your journey, if they know you and what you do. They're very unlikely to buy your book, however, just because they see a random Instagram post with you asking them to buy it without having first formed a relationship with you. I'm by no means saying that you shouldn't let people know when you have a book out, of course you should, and direct them to where they can buy it. But this should be done only after you've built up a relationship with your potential readers. This is a relationship which could mean that they end up deciding to buy your book rather than the latest Stephen King or James Patterson release, as they usually do. And while most writers absolutely hate having to spend some of the precious time that they could be writing in on social media in particular, it does give us a very, very good way to connect with readers, which simply wasn't available to us 30 years ago. And it is so important that we take advantage of it from the very beginning of our writing journey. Now, I'm not suggesting that you spend hours a day building your author brand as you attempt to fit writing your first book in around everything else that you have going on in your life, but it should be part of what you're doing as a writer, because readers are much more likely to buy your book if they know about you and what makes you tick. And in fact, if you are looking for some tips on how you should go about branding yourself, how you should go about marketing your book, I do have a book available which I wrote with lots of snippets from friends of mine who write in all kinds of different genres, and I will make sure that I link down to that in the description below, because it is really handy if you're someone who appreciates that they need to do the whole social media thing but don't necessarily want to spend hours and hours a week on it. So as you can see, you really should not be like me. You also shouldn't devote your life to being on social media and sharing every single second of your life on it. But I now really do believe that it's sensible for you to begin marketing yourself as a brand as soon as you are able to, as soon as you are aware that you are going to be having a book that you are going to want to sell at some point in the future, even if you are not exactly sure of how that looks yet, or even when that is going to happen. Well, I really hope that this video was useful. If it was, then please make sure that you boop that like button and subscribe if you're not already, because we have a lot of fun on this channel, and I will catch you in the next one.